Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is March the 2nd, 2024, and I'm speaking with Stephanie. Stephanie went to several
Hello.
schools. Family Foundation in New York. She
Yeah,
went to Second Nature, Blue Ridge in Georgia, and Island View in Utah. It's funny they call it Island View because there's no oceans around Utah. But, okay. So, Stephanie, go ahead. So tell us what not to say who sent you there. Why did you go there? What did you do that was so terrible that had to send you to
so
a boarding
terrible. It
school?
must have been awful to be sent all the way to America from England. It must have been awful. So basically, when I was 13, I had my childhood was, I came from a really privileged background. My parents were, I didn't realize at the time, my parents were very wealthy. I started boarding since I was the age of 8 years old. I had a great time at school when I was younger. Lots of close friends. And then when I turned 13, I went through a sexual trauma with an older male in the school. And from then onwards, my behavior became abnormal, I guess. When you go through a sexual trauma as a young girl,
Sure.
it does affect you. So I had a really, I didn't really have a relationship with my dad. My dad lived in our home, but I don't want to slander him because I have a brother and other sisters, and I don't want to hurt them because their relationship with him was very different.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously this affected me as a teenage girl. After going through a sexual trauma at just 13 years of age, after that I kind of went off the wall. Um,
You
and
started acting
mentally,
out. You started acting out and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, at 13. Um, and this guy was older than me and he was mentally abusive. I started getting bullied in school and it really affected my mental health. I took my first overdose at the age of 13. I took 16 painkillers to try and kill myself and I
Oh,
started self harming. Um, my parents, I was out of control in school. I was behaving in a provocative manner at 13, which is worrying for a parent.
right,
My
right.
parents didn't know what to do with me. Um, I got a reputation in the school. I was really alone. I was being bullied. Um, my parents, coming from a wealthy background, basically were embarrassed of me. Let's put it that way. They didn't know what to do with me, so they sent me to an all-girls school in Cobham, which is just outside London. It's about an hour's drive away.
Okay.
I was told I could come home every weekend. I was told they'd come and get me, but they never did. They left me there for a month without seeing them. Um, so this just isolated me even more. And I was around normal children. I wasn't normal, I'd gone through a lot of stuff for just a girl of 13. By the age of 14, I took my second overdose. I took 36 painkillers and antibiotics. Um, I ended up in hospital again. Um, obviously, because the first time I attempted suicide, I was involved with something called the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services
Okay.
um, in England, and I was having counselling, and I had a great therapist. She was lovely. She was the only person I could talk to because, like I said, I was bullied in school. And my parents basically they're embarrassed of me. I was basically disowned. Um, they just kept sending me from here, there, and everywhere. My family life at home was awful. I had an older sister. She was embarrassed of me as well. I was 13, I was 14. I was just a girl.
Right.
Um, and, I started I smoked weed occasionally, like, like teenagers do. Um, I had the odd drink here and there. Um, they moved me. I was at this private girls' school outside London for a month, and I just started. These girls, their life experiences had been so different to mine. Like, I'd gone through a lot by the age of 14. These these girls, most of them had had normal family lives. My family life was terrible, so I found it really hard to fit in. So I ended up getting suspended from there.
Oh,
And
really?
I got sent home, and I refused to return because my parents left me there for a month, and I was like, no, I'm not going back. Like, this place is boring. It was in the middle of nowhere. In my previous boarding school, we could walk into town at lunchtime and get something to eat. I had more freedom and it was fun, as a teenager. So then I was really struggling mentally. I was still cutting myself. I had mental health problems. Um, my parents then decided to send me to another school. I was only there for 3 days. This is another private school. Yeah. Um, because my mum, she was really protective. You need to understand, my mum, she was raised as a Muslim. She's Arabic, so she was raised in Algeria, North Africa. So there, it's a completely different society. Like, girls and women, everything is different. Like, if you even touch alcohol, for her, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
So she met my dad. She went to university in Paris, and when she finished university, she worked as a teacher, and that's where she met my dad. And my dad brought her back to England. But she's come from a Muslim community, and her sisters are Muslim, so she did not know how to deal with me. Like, my parents lived in a very I was brought up in the countryside, really rural area.
Yeah.
Um, Other than school, like, my mum drove me to my first school I was at. She drove half an hour every day up until the age of 8 when I started boarding. So we lived in a really rural area. So we were really isolated from everything. We lived in a bubble, really. So yeah, she didn't know what to do with me. So when I went to Dover College, which was the boarding school I went to after the girls' school that I was at for a month, she didn't like the crowd I was hanging around with, because I was like, I was just being a teenager, like, I made friends there. Okay, I was smoking cigarettes, like, going around my friends' houses, drinking alcohol, not nothing crazy, just being a teenager.
Right.
It's what teenagers do.
It,
Come on, like, you're raising, like, I just find it crazy to think. I was a teenager. There's a way of parenting. Like, I have a son. He's actually with my mum at the moment. But, like, I want to guide him as he grows up. I want to guide him. Like, my parents' approach was just, I learned from their mistakes. Anyway, after this school, my mum, she couldn't handle it. She was just suffocating me. She wanted to pick me up straight after school and take me home. I wanted to go and spend time with my friends. Everyone else was. Why couldn't I go to my friends' houses? Anyway, after that, I got sent to another school. After 3 days, they sent me to another school. No, actually, I refused to go back to school. This was the last straw. I was sent to another school, and I was just being a teenager. It was a bit out of control, whatever. And then that's when I took the second. That's when I tried to take my life for the second time. I was having trouble with a boyfriend. I was a mess. I had no family support.
that usually that,
Mentally,
that
I
usually
was
happens. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was really mentally ill. I wasn't well. Cutting myself more. Refused to go back to school. So my parents were under a lot of pressure to put me back into education by the authorities. Obviously, my relationship with my dad was terrible. He was violent towards me and my family when I was growing up. He was violent in a drunken rage. He was violent towards me and my family. The police were called. My dad was arrested. As the social services became, the child protection services, as they call it in America, became involved.
Mm-hmm.
For like a middle class family, this was really frowned upon. And I think my parents felt embarrassed, ashamed. They didn't really know what to do. At this time, there was a TV program on the BBC, which is like a big TV channel in England, called
British
Brat
broad
Camp.
British Broadcasting something. Yeah, I've heard of it.
That's right. Yeah. So there was this program called Brat Camp on there, and it looked great. We used to watch it for entertainment purposes. Now I know it wasn't so great after all. So anyway, then this idea of sending me to America came up because they didn't know what to do with me. Mental health services, like at the time, what could be offered to me was limited. My parents were at a complete loss, and they had the resources to send me there. I was told, so they found this boarding school, and um, they gave me a brochure. My mum did some research online. I think she spoke to an educational consultant. One person actually warned her against putting me in the troubled teen industry for the very reason that it's unregulated and it's not safe. We should
Right.
have taken that warning. Um, However, my mum persisted, and she found the Family Foundation School in Hancock, New York. And she gave me this brochure. It looked amazing. They advertised as a therapeutic boarding school for teenagers with mental health issues, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, um, behavioral disorders, all that kind of thing. They advertised that they had cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. This looked amazing. They said they had counselors. They said that the school had families, and all I wanted was just a family, because my home life was awful. So this looked amazing. They advertised that they had a dog training program, horse riding, fly fishing. It literally looked like paradise, and it was in America, and I really wanted to go. I'd only ever been, I think, once when I was a baby, and I didn't remember it. And I was so depressed. I was at home, I was out of school. I wanted to be around kids my age. I struggled with friendships a lot because my school life was so chaotic, from being moved from one place to the other, and because I had so many problems, it was really hard for me to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this place looked like paradise.
That's
So
how
my
they
mum
do
got in
it.
contact.
That's how they do it.
Yeah,
They show you all the pretty
yeah,
pictures. They have the kids smile for the
exactly.
camera, and
Yeah,
boom, right in the trap.
yeah, exactly. Um, so my mum showed me this brochure. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, let me read. I kind of had a gut feeling that, something wasn't right. I was like, okay, like let me research the school first. So I went on, got up from my bed, looked on the laptop, and I typed the name of the school in, and that's when I started seeing allegations of abuse. I can't be sure, but I think I can't remember if the Family Foundation School Truth Campaign had formed. I think it might have, because I went in March 2009, and the family, I believe, all our all I can remember right now is that I saw allegations of abuse. Okay. So I'm thinking, like, what the hell? Like, I've typed in the name of this school, and there are these allegations online. I'm thinking, like, what the hell? And I spoke to my mum about it. And she's gone and spoken to school. Oh, they said they're just troubled teenagers,
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yeah.
gave all that story. That was the first big red flag. I was so naive. I really wanted the help. Like, I wanted mental health services. I looked at all of this. I thought, wow, this place looks great. even more so when my mum contacted the admissions team, there was a boy there from England. So I was like, yeah, cool. Like, we're going to be two English kids in America, you know? This is
Yeah.
going to be great. Um, and my mum told me, I did some more research online, and I read that they followed the AA program, which is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. Like, I respect people with religion, you know, but I'm not religious. I went to Catholic schools growing up. We had to attend church, I think, 2, 3 days a week. That was as far as the religion went there. It was in the morning for half an hour, three days a week for the most part. It was just something I was raised with. I saw that it was. I saw it was quite religious, and I thought, well, it can't be that much different from the schools I'd been to before. So let's give it a shot. I saw I saw that they practiced the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, um,
Which is a
but yet they advertise. Yeah,
It's a Christian program basically.
yeah, and they advertise what was another red flag from a mental health perspective was that they claimed to have DBT and CBT and cater for all these kids with a wide range of problems, but the school was based on the program of AA. How can you treat that? Something's not right there. You can't treat, you claim to be a therapeutic boarding school and treat all these kids with these different mental health conditions and whatever, but the school practices AA. Something's not right there. So I was really worried about that because I thought, like, I'm not an alcoholic. Like, I'm by this point, I was 14 years old. I
Oh,
was
come
thinking,
on.
oh, I'm
You've
not an alcoholic.
you've probably had a few pints of Guinness every now and then, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as a teenager, yeah, like who
Who
doesn't? That's what
doesn't?
teenagers do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, okay, something's not quite right here. You claim to be a therapeutic boarding school, you know, like I said before. So I said to mum, okay, like, let's go and tour this place. Let's not rush into anything. She wanted to get me the student visa and get me going straight away. The school was telling, like, really convincing my mum this is the right place. My mum had been on this was another red flag. The secretary of the school gave my mother the personal information of the English boy's mother without even asking her permission. I mean, this
Hmm.
is not very professional, you know. You don't really do that.
Right.
You she was like my mum because my mum had asked the woman about the allegations of abuse, and the secretary straight away said, "Oh, we've got an English boy here," and gave my mum the number without even asking permission. Like that's something it's not very professional, you know. Like
That's
you need to ask permission, you know,
that.
first.
Yeah,
But
that's also criminal. You're not supposed to do
yeah,
that.
exactly. Like you're sharing someone else's information without permission. That's not right.
No.
So that should have been another red flag.
No, no,
Anyway,
Stephanie. Just one thing. Was your mother still Muslim?
when she came to England, she stopped practicing, but she very
Okay.
much had a Muslim mindset. So I was, you know, like I said, I was behaving promiscuously when I
Right.
was younger. I've got no shame in saying that, you know, like I was abused and it affected me. Like I think it would most girls of 13. You're too young, and I had no guidance.
Right.
I was just
The
shamed.
reason why I was asking is because
Yeah,
when it comes to the Muslim faith, I mean it's a totally different culture from America and England. Just a
yeah.
completely different culture. And I was just thinking, if she was still a Muslim, why was she okay with sending you to a school
Because
that
she
was
wanted to punish me.
somewhat Christian? You know what I mean?
Because she wanted to punish me.
Okay.
Because she was ashamed of me. My whole family was. So
Okay.
yeah, it's really deep. It's awful. It's disgusting. So anyway, she deceived me. brought me to the American concierge in London under the impression that I would just be touring a school. I got my student visa. We got a flight out there. Drove from Newark, New whatever,
New York.
JFK.
Uh huh.
Yeah, my mum hired a car. We drove from JFK. I was taken to school out in the middle of nowhere. I was scared. Like, I remember we drove through a place called Lordsville. Like, they had dolls hanging up at the windows and stuff. I'm looking at mum thinking, like, are you sure, mum? You know, like,
Looks.
this is a bit
It
scary.
looks almost like a horror film, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was a horror film. The whole thing was a horror film. Um, yeah. So then get taken them, and then all of a sudden, like, it's dead. The whole school is dead. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Literally, like, I think it was about seven. So you've got Hancock, which is, I don't know if it's a village or a town. This school was 7 miles from the village, really out in the mountains. Like, I'm thinking, oh my God, like, my mom told me we had like weekend trips and day trips, and they take us shopping into the cinema, because my worst fear was being cooped up somewhere, you know.
Right.
So I'm really, my anxiety is going at this point, like, what the hell, you know, like, this place is so far out in the mountains. When we arrive at the school, it's dead. Like, there's no kids, what, there's no life. And I remember the gut feeling I had was just indescribable. I just knew something. I could just feel something was wrong. So I said to Mum, I'm going to stay in the car. You can go in the school. I said, you can go and tour it. I said, I want to stay in the car, because something just knew I was going to be left there. Something was just telling me. Anyway, she's gone in. I'm waiting in the car. Minutes pass. Next minute, you know, there's about 6 people that walk down the stairs, and then one of the guys, one of the staff members, opens a door. I couldn't say no, you know. I was
Right.
intimidated, and I didn't want to be rude as well. Then my suitcases were taken out. It was awful. And then my mum and I were separated, and I was taken into school, taken into the locker room. I was strip searched. There was 2 other girls my age in there at the time, and one staff member. I was strip searched. I was told to squat and cough 3 times. My hair was, they put head lice treatment on my hair. I was just completely stripped of everything. Um, there was a strict dress code. This probably been mentioned on here before. We Everything had to be like plain and modest. Um, okay, like, we couldn't we couldn't wear thongs. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is
Right.
this place? Like, that, I was a teenage girl, and like, they took my high heels. I'm thinking I'm going to a high school in America. Like, I can't wait, you know? And then, like, all of this stuff happens. And, well, I remember one of the staff took my high heels, and one of the girls who was at the school, who was in the locker room with me, she was 17, and she looked at them high heels like she hadn't seen them in years, and she asked if she could walk in them. Yeah. So she started strutting up and down the locker room. I'm thinking, what the hell is this place? Like, what the hell? Like, these girls are weird.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what I thought. I was like, these girls are weird. Like, I've been out in the real world, you know, and I've come here, and they're looking at high heels like, uh, I was just mind blown. Anyway, after that, me and my mum were separated at this point. I'm thinking, where's my mum? Like, the girls start telling me stories about what to expect of this place. I'm scared. I'm seriously intimidated, and I'm scared. I'm in America. I'm 14 years old. Like, I'm in a whole different culture. I didn't realize how scary this was going to be for me. I was a baby, you know. Like America
Yeah.
is a completely different culture. We have different laws. We have different, a completely different societies. This was really scary for me. And plus, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And of course, and of course, the food is a lot different too.
And the food, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. I
It,
can't say I had the best
yeah.
experience with food where I was,
I'm
but
sure. I'm sure it was garbage.
it was. You got used to it after a while, though. To be fair, there was some stuff I liked, but yeah, wasn't great. I mean, they didn't spend much money on a food. You know, I don't want to sound like a brat. Food's food at the end of the day, but you know, I was 14. Anyway, I get taken to this family after I'm literally just stripped of my dignity, stripped of everything that makes me human. Like, I'm in shock. My hair's just been had two people put head lice treatment in. I've just been told to squat and cough in front of all these people I don't know. And I was told to shower, and I only had, I think it was a 4 minute timed shower. I didn't even have enough time to do my hair. All these girls, like, there was no time to do anything. Everything was on a strict time limit. My stress levels were sky high. Like, I was used to boarding school. We had like a decent amount of time to get ready. So like I wasn't confident like to walk around with no makeup on and all that. I wasn't. You know, I had all these insecurities. This was and I'm trying to put my makeup on to make myself feel okay as a teenager, and they're like, quick, like we have to be quick. And I'm thinking, well, what's all the rush about? There's no time to do anything. And these girls are scared. You can tell they're scared. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, what is wrong with these guys? Anyway, we walked through the corridor. I also know that there's people who like were mandated by the courts there, so I don't feel safe. Like, I mean, no one deserved to be at the school, criminal or not. What they did was disgusting. Juvie, it was better. I know that for a fact. I know people that went to juvie in America. Juvie was better
Oh
than that
yeah,
school.
that's
Yeah.
what I've heard. Yeah, Juvie was much better.
Yeah.
So
So, but as a 14-year-old girl, like, in a different culture, different country, like with people that had been mandated by the court, like older boys, I'm scared. And the way they walked around, everyone's eyes were just glazed over. I'm thinking, what, like, something's not right about this school. Like, there was just something not right. Like, no one's really talking. They're just looking at me. I'm thinking, why is everyone just looking at me? Like, why is no one talking normally? I thought I was really weird. But I try and like be like, oh come on, I try and cheer myself up, be like I'm in America, you know.
it's
And
probably the accent as well. So
yeah, yeah, as well.
oh, an
Yeah,
outsider. Oh, here we go. Right.
yeah,
how
that's it.
how long
Um,
how long were you there, Stephanie?
I was only there for 6 months.
Six
Sounds crazy, but 6 months traumatized me for life.
six
I can only
months.
imagine 6 months. I can only imagine how kids that have been there for 3 years.
Wow.
I was there 6 months, yeah, and
Usually
it's
it's
traumatized me.
I think usually it's 18 months is what they give you.
Hmm. Yeah, usually, but my experience, I completely rebelled. I tried to get myself arrested just to get out of there, to get myself sent to juvie because it was my mental health
Right.
suffering. I found out. I found out I'm at this school that I've seen claims to provide all these psychological services. Claims to have counsellors. I've got there. Most people were telling me they've been escorted. Most people hadn't seen any of the advertisements. And I'm like, oh, it's really religious. Like we're praying 14, 15 times a day. When you first get there, each family has their own rules on who you can and can't speak to. In my family, when you arrive at the school, you're only allowed to speak to people that had been at the school for 18 months or more.
Hmm.
So they were already brainwashed into the program of
Right.
AA. You weren't allowed to speak to your parents for the first month. You could write letters, but all letters were
They were
monitored.
they were monitored, screened. Yep.
Yeah, you couldn't say anything bad about the school. There was a rule there. You weren't allowed to be negative. Negative could mean anything. If you're so tired, if you just say something bad, you'll get confronted, you're being negative. You could be punished for it. It was extremely sadistic. Um, anyway, yeah, eventually my mum goes, I'm totally alone, I'm scared. Table topics, I know you've heard about them.
Yes.
Literally, the first table topic I witnessed, there'd been a fight in the hall. Two boys playing basketball. One of them pulled the top of another. These boys were brought up in front of each family had about 30 kids in them when I was there, a lot, which was later than the kids that had been on. Well, they're not kids anymore. We're not kids anymore.
Right.
The people that have been on your podcast. Um, when I was there was about 30 kids to each family. So these two boys were brought up in front of the table and they were ripped to shreds. And I'm thinking, what the hell? This is just ridiculous. Like, come on, two boys, high testosterone, teenage boys, like, no one got seriously injured, like this stuff happens. This is not necessary. So I'm sat there and I'm really feeling like I'm really empathic, you know what I mean.
Right.
So I'm really feeling for these guys. I was scared. They were telling, like, literally the staff were, each family had a mother and father, and the house mother, she was a family mother, she was ripping these boys to shreds, telling them their parents don't love them, that's why they're here, because they'll never survive the outside world. If it wasn't for the family school, they would be dead. I'm thinking, I'm looking around thinking, why is no one saying anything? I'm looking at the adults in the room and thinking, like, oh, before it escalated, I was thinking, I was just waiting for another staff member to intervene and say, come on, that's enough now. No one did. And that was the
And you
shocking thing about it.
and you were probably thinking to yourself, this was supposed to be rehabilitation. What's going on?
Yeah, this is supposed to be a therapeutic boarding school. There is
Yeah.
nothing therapeutic about
No.
there's nothing therapeutic about telling these kids that they're unloved and their parents don't want them.
Yeah.
Um, and I just remember sitting there crying, my eyes out in silence, and I was so scared. And that's when all my power, my everything was taken, my power, my humanity, my voice, I was so scared. My voice was taken away from me. I wanted to say something, but I felt like I couldn't because no one else did.
And that
Because
and that
everyone was scared
and after seeing that those kids were ripped to shreds, you didn't want to take the chance that they were going to put you in front of
in that
everybody
situation.
and rip you to
Yeah,
shreds too. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, everyone was assigned a shadow when you get there. A shadow is someone who has been in the AA program. To have the ability to shadow, you have to have been there in my family for 6 months or more. That was the rule in my family. Every family rule was different. The shadowed kids were brainwashed. Um, and usually your assigned shadow when you first get there is also your junior sponsor.
Oh, okay.
Junior sponsor. So in the program of AA, obviously, you have like a sponsor who sponsors you through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm thinking, I'm 14 years old. All these guys are talking about, there were all these different program jargon. I'm thinking, what's the program? What's the AA program? You know? And they're telling me I have to revise the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous off by heart if I wanted to get off shadow. I'm thinking, I was scared. I'm thinking, why do I have to revise the 12 steps of AA? Like, why do I have to do this? I'm
Hmm.
14. But if I wanted to get out of the school, if I wanted to complete the program, if I wanted to go back home, if I wanted to be with my family, then I had to do it. So I had to, yeah, I couldn't speak on the phone with my parents for the first month. The rules were ridiculous. Um, and yeah, I just remember I was so scared.
So
Yeah,
6 months go by.
yeah.
How did you get out of
And
that?
then I rebelled completely. I was being restrained constantly just for being scared and running off. I tried to run away once. No, actually, I was told twice. See, it messed up my mental health so badly. Like there was a psychologist there as well. Which
Yeah.
how is eh,
I,
I don't get it. How
I,
can a psychologist work in a school like that?
I
So I was scared of that as well, you know,
yeah.
thinking, what the, yeah. I was petrified. I actually developed, I'm going to be honest with you, I developed something called dissociative identity disorder, which is a split personality. I've been writing a memoir about my experience in America since I was 14. I'm 29 now. I'm going to be 30 in May, which is crazy to think. And
time
I've got all
goes
the letters.
time goes by
It
fast.
It does. To think I've been writing this book since I was that age is crazy. Yeah, I actually developed a split personality there. I've got like all the evidence, everything, because of trauma, the psychological trauma and the physical trauma of being restrained, the spiritual trauma, religious trauma, like it does stuff to your head, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so how did I get out? I rebelled. I got myself arrested. I was sent to isolation. I was put there for 2 weeks. I stopped eating. I cut myself. I went cuckoo. I did anything I could to get out of there. I tried to get myself sent to a psychiatric ward. I was going cuckoo until I got sent out of there. Um, and yeah, I was due to appear in court now, whether they because I pulled the fire alarm because I was trying to get myself sent to juvie, anywhere was better than there. It was a hellhole. The way I saw kids being treated was disgusting. The way I was treated was disgusting. It was terrifying. I'd never seen anything like it. Never in my life. Um, then I was yeah, so I'd been put in isolation. I stayed there for 2 weeks. I stopped eating. I started cutting myself. I started writing on the walls in my own blood. I started banging my head against the walls. Um, Anything to make myself look crazy so they can send me somewhere else. And I was fucking sorry,
It's
I
all right.
was going crazy. I was going crazy.
Yeah.
So then I was rebelling. I started, I grew I learned to stick up for myself and I started telling them you advertise psychological services on your advertisements. You are brainwashing the kids. Most of the kids hadn't seen these advertisements, so they don't know anything about it. But I did. I'd seen what this school advertised.
Yeah.
I'd seen all the amazing activities we were supposed to have that didn't, or that if we did have, only happened maybe once a year, or were like fly fishing. When I was there, that was restricted to boys. None of that was mentioned on the brochure because I would have loved to do that, but I wasn't allowed because I was a female. That's what I was told anyway. Because someone else like that arrived at the school after me, she told me that she could, but she was in a different family, so
Oh.
I don't know what the truth is.
So
Uh,
you went to court, right?
I didn't go to
You
court.
didn't
No,
go to
I
court.
didn't go. This is what makes me question. Maybe the reason that they arranged for me to be escorted in the middle of the night from the family school to Wilderness was because I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my goodness,
I know kids.
they sent you from the family school to the wilderness?
Yeah, all the kids they wanted to break them. This was like just the talk in the school. All the kids that didn't conform were sent to Wilderness, and then they were brought back because Wilderness was hard labor.
Yeah.
Wilderness was was strenuous, physical work, tiring, psychologically taxing. They wanted to send me there to break me and then bring me back to the family school. So
Wow.
yeah, I did 3 months in wilderness. That was in Georgia. I've got all the letters, the psychological torture that went on there. They constantly held manipulations group. Like the brainwashing was just indescribable. The whole industry is plagued with brainwashing, constantly telling a young person they're trying to manipulate your parents. There's
Sure.
no there's no room to breathe. There's no room to breathe. There's no room for growth. You are stunting young adults' growth, you know? Like they don't let you move on from the past. They just stunt your growth and keep you small. And it was wearing. We
Right.
constantly had groups, manipulations groups in wilderness. Um, this is all in my book as well. It was constant.
They,
Yeah,
they want to control you is what they want.
yeah,
People who
yeah, and the
pe-
most, yeah,
people who are easily controlled, you know, they they're pretty much not very hard to. People that are easily
yeah,
manipulated or broken are easy to control. I'll put it that way. It's easy to
yeah,
control them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the most disgusting thing as well was my medication. I was medically, psychiatrically neglected. Um, when I was sent to wilderness, like my medication, this is all in my memoir. My medication, they, um, they, I went day, they in wilderness. There's a letter written to my mum saying, I've run out of meds. There's none left.
Hmm.
How are you caring for me? What are the staff doing? Like everybody knows you shouldn't just be left with no meds. So I'm expected to climb up these mountains every day hiking with I think they were like 50, 60 kilogram backpacks on my back, hiking up mountains, sleeping on hills, and being psychologically, emotionally suffering. And I don't have any meds. They've run out of my meds. That's not caring for a young person.
Plus, you have to take into
Um,
plus you have to take into consideration all the wild animals that are out there.
yeah, the bears and the snakes, yeah,
Yes.
and the wild hogs. Yeah, I encountered a timber rattler, a copperhead, a wild boar, and um, there were coyotes. I was scared for my life. These animals don't even exist in England. So
Yeah.
I'm
Just
so
foxes. Just foxes.
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, I was scared. I'm thinking, oh my God. Like you see, I mean, I got used to it. Now I'm a proper nature lover now. Because I found, I mean, obviously it was a real struggle for me, but it did it will I walk a spiritual path, and eventually I was so tired of my parents. I was so tired of all the bullshit around me. I would have been quite happy just to live in the woods
In the
on
woods.
my own with no one around me. Yeah. Um
So three.
so yeah.
You said you were there for 3 months. Now, how did you
Yeah.
get there? Did they put you in a car and drive you down?
They woke me up at 12 midnight or 1 p.m. I can't remember now. Two escorts came in. We slept in trailers. Two escorts came into my trailer, and with one of the staff members that was working there, that was always restraining me. And I was taken from. I was driven in the truck to the airport, and then I was taken on a plane,
Okay.
and then two other escorts came to collect me from the airport. Then I was taken to a cabin, strip searched, checked over by a doctor to see if I was physically fit
Right.
to attend the wilderness program. And then I was driven up to the cabin, and the backpack had to pick up a backpack, and then that was it.
But do they? I'm sure the drive there must have been scary because we do drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah,
We drive on the wrong side of the road.
yeah, it was. Everything was scary. And plus, like, wilderness was something we were taught to fear at the family school. Like, the staff would tell us, like, really tell us, like, if you don't behave, we're sending you to wilderness. Like, it was somewhere we were really taught to fear,
Yeah.
you know? So I was petrified. Like, it was a really sadistic school. They loved traumatizing kids. All of us lived on fear. Anyone that says they weren't scared is a liar.
And the thing is,
Everyone, everyone was scared.
a lot of them. There's thousands of these schools in America. Thousands.
Yeah, that's what. And there's no oversight.
No.
There's no oversight.
No.
No, like this is the thing. Like in England, this was something. Actually, when we saw the comments online from the family school, we thought oh, surely they must have Ofsted. Okay, I'm not saying one country's better than the other. I'm not. But in England, private schools, we have independent schools have a separate body that carries out inspections on a regular basis to
Okay.
make sure, you know. And I believe that's something that these schools need, because when the Family Foundation School, when there was an inspection carried out in 2000, and I think there was one in 2009, I think there was another one in 2011 or whatever, but those inspectors would never have turned up if it wasn't for survivors of the school who raised the alarm. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. There should be inspections taking place already,
Right.
because if those inspections, yeah, because in 2000, I attended in 2009. I think this inspection took place in 2011. These inspectors actually found, when they turned up, that this school had advertised cognitive behavioural therapy and dialectical behavioural therapy, and pointed out in the investigation that parents will be specifically choosing this school because of the services they claim to have. So that school had been functioning for approximately 2 years between the time that I attended and that inspection. That's fraud. That's
Yeah.
white collar crime right there.
Yeah. It is. And the
This
thing.
the
And
schools,
uh
yeah,
huh. And the thing is that they're not regulated. Like I said, there's no oversight, so they don't have to tell the state government that they're there. They could just set up shop and start advertising.
yeah, exactly. And that shouldn't be allowed to happen. There should be a a government body that oversees this, and that there's enough money for these inspections to be carried out, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a child protection issue. This is a child protection issue massively, because I mean, look at all these kids. You know, we're adults now. There's so many of us. Look at the program that is currently featured on Netflix. You're probably aware of it, aren't you? The program.
I'm aware of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at there was another a wilderness program that was is, I don't know if it's still on there. There's that. Think of Straight Inc. as well. You know, all the lawsuits that came from Straight Inc., which was also a drug alcohol rehabilitation program and that practiced AA. Sure, the government should be learning lessons from this and protecting children and vulnerable young people. You cannot take every single 13 to 18-year-old or 11 to 18, whatever age, and accuse them of being an alcoholic. That is just crazy. You
Yeah.
cannot do that. That is, it's
It's
unethical.
yes, it is. It is. But they get away with it. They get away with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Right.
And access to child protection services. We had no access. Everything was monitored. There should be there needs to be more oversight, is my opinion. It's
Definitely.
just it sickens me. And it's still going on now, and I'm going to be 30. Like, this is disgusting.
Right. And the thing is, a lot of these places, they do get shut down, but
And then it just reopens
they
again
reopen in another
under a different
state,
name.
under a different name in another state that
Yeah,
doesn't have regulations. Yep, exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's the
the
problem.
Family Foundation School. Yeah, actually, the Family Foundation School, when I was there, they wanted to open one in England. I was thinking, nah.
No, they never would have
Yeah,
survived. They never would have survived in England. Not with all the oversight regulations they have there. There's no way.
yeah, no, that they wouldn't have. I
So
mean, don't get me wrong, historically, I know there are schools that have, but yeah, there's a lot more oversight. I can't say every school's like that, but there is a lot more
right.
oversight.
So Stephanie,
Yeah.
tell me about Island View.
So Island View, I was there for 4 months. Um, to be honest, when I went there, I was so brainwashed, beaten down, broken, and programmed from all of the two different placements I'd been to before. I think in the whole year I was in America, bearing in mind my whole family was in England, I had nobody in America. I never had a home visit. I think I only saw my parents about 3 times. That is tough. That is tough
Oh
for
yeah,
any teenager of that age. That was really hard. So, as you can imagine, my relationship, my with my family is extremely fractured. It's totally, to be honest, it's destroyed a lot.
yeah.
Um, anyway, so Island View. By the time I was there, um, like I said, I was so brainwashed. People, because I just survived the wilderness. I've been through the wars. So I've got there. Most of the kids there had this was their first program. So to be honest, like I look back now and I can see like how my words could have been traumatizing for them because I remember how I felt when I first went to the family school. But for me, like I'd grown in all of those months I was in America. I learned to only depend on myself. I learned I can only ever depend on myself. I learned to survive. Um, so for me, it was I got used to seeing trauma by that point. I got used to seeing kids being restrained. I got used to seeing kids getting put in isolation. I got used to seeing kids being bullied. I got used to that was my normal. That's how I grew up. So I was immune to it by then, and
Is that
I
pla-
was just
is
brainwashed.
that place still is that place still open?
No,
No.
it closed down. There were various lawsuits that were filed. Um, yeah, my therapist actually at Island View. I mean, when I look back on it, I mean, we did have a kind of weird relationship. I did actually try and call him a couple of years ago. Um, yeah, and he actually groomed one of his clients from Island View and later married her.
Wow,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Um, it's crazy. I mean, maybe that's Utah, I don't know, but
It's where the Mormons are.
sorry,
Yeah.
I had to throw that
Yeah, there's a lot of Mormons in Utah. So,
in.
well,
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing that those
yeah.
places are closed. I'm sure nature Second Nature is also closed down, right? That wilderness program.
Yeah, yeah. I know they have got another second nature somewhere else though, but I think the wilderness program has closed down. I'm not too sure. I did look into it a few years ago, but I don't know if we said this But Island View, it closed down. It's under a different name, but you still got. I went on there not long ago, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple of staff members. I mean, maybe they just look like them. I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
Who knows?
maybe, yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, there's definitely some ties there anyway. Um, yeah, no, it's just like they just reopen. It's just so wrong. Like, why is the government not doing anything? And like the fact that kids are coming in internationally, like this shouldn't be allowed. When I was there, there was also a girl from the Philippines that had been sent to wilderness, escorted from the Philippines,
Wow.
originally from Indonesia. She was escorted there, and I saw her. This was in wilderness. I've been toughened up by this point. You know, I was hard. I've been in survival mode. I've been fighting for my life. I've been surviving. I've been thrown down the floor, restrained. So I was toughened up at this point. I'd seen some stuff, and when I saw her, my heart just completely broke. I saw
Hmm.
myself in her. I empathized with her. She looked so scared, and she wasn't allowed to. One of the rules at Wilderness was that you weren't allowed to speak to anyone for like. You have to complete. You have to do self-reflection work. You weren't allowed to talk to anyone for like. You weren't allowed to be a part of the group for I think 2 or 3 days. Then you had like this ceremony, which it's like hippie ceremony, where you were welcomed into the group. And just to think like this girl's just been taken away from her family from the Philippines. Yeah, she was originally from Indonesia, if I got that
Indonesia.
right. Brought, and brought into America and into the woods, and she's not even allowed to speak to any of us for 2 or 3 days. It was she looked so sad. I was
Yeah.
actually lucky enough to be her mentor, and I hope that gave her some comfort knowing that there's another international kid there with you that's been through it. And I really, I really said tried to reassure her, um, and tell her she was going to be okay. But the truth is, I mean, like I don't know if she's going to be okay. I mean, you could see she was fragile and
Well, maybe
fragile people.
maybe she toughened up as well. You know.
Maybe. I hope so. But I mean, the outlook for most of us that survive these programs is bleak. I mean, as you're aware, I think there's been various um, articles on a newspaper and lawsuit settlements, but the lawsuits they are lucky. Um, those that they got the lawsuits, sexual abuse survivors. Um, I don't think it's fair that, um, and I'm happy for them, of course. That brings a lot of closure and healing. I really hope. I just don't think it's fair that the rest of us have to suffer. Like, why can't we have a lawsuit? The psychological torture, spiritual torture, physical suffering, we were subject to is indescribable. I still, I, I live on disability payments because I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, I only I studied, I'm very studious. I managed to get a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree in mental health in children and young people. Um, I've only managed to, in my whole adult life, do 1.5 years of employment, and I struggle. I struggle with socializing, because of my post traumatic stress disorder. Um, my family's completely fractured because of my childhood. I really struggle with friendships. I really struggle with relating to other people. It's really hard for me, um, because when you've gone through those experiences, it really changes your worldview. And it's hard to relate to people that have had like a normal high school experience. And like, I didn't go to school in my local area. I went to schools everywhere. Um, I really struggle with anxiety massively. Yeah,
Wow.
my life is, yeah, it's really hard for me. And a lot of the my close friends that I had at the family school, ones I really related to. Um, like some, there's a few of them that unfortunately took their lives. Um, I'm lucky that there are students that attended the school before me. I've never met in person because we didn't go to the school at the same time, but I'm lucky to have the survivors um, that I do, that I know I can talk to about this stuff because it still haunts me to this very day.
It haunts a lot of people to this day. We've had people on this podcast who went to these troubled teen homes in the 70s that are still fighting it today. I mean,
Haunted.
it's yeah, it never goes away, but
Yeah,
it can be treated though. You know.
yeah. I mean, exactly. And I wanted to go on this podcast because I had an experience with the UK police. I don't know if you've seen on my Facebook post, but I had it's I wasn't coping. I wasn't coping. I was really struggling with my trauma, like just the injustice of the whole situation. I tried so hard to fight. I contacted lawyers. Um, I tried to tell my parents when I came back. They didn't believe me. They shrugged me off. I never even got an apology for years. I had nobody. I only had my memoir to turn to. Um, and I contacted lawyers in England and America. No one knew how to resolve the situation from across the waters.
Well,
Um,
the thing is,
and
the thing is,
yeah,
in America, the wheels of justice turn very slowly, and sometimes it's at the point where the place that you went to or the place that these kids go to will just declare bankruptcy. You know,
yeah,
and
yeah. Well, as soon as yeah,
it screws
as
everybody.
soon as the exactly as soon as the inspectors got involved, they closed down shortly after. I
Yeah,
mean, thanks to the Family Foundation School Truth campaign and all the work that went into that. And there was one individual who sent, I think, 10,000 letters to the townspeople of Hancock, warning them of the abuse going on in the school. All of that, you know, it was those individuals that contributed to this school's decline in enrollments and eventual closure of the school,
right.
um, which is something to be massively proud about. Um, just the fact that the school's no longer running is great for me. However, yeah, there is a massive injustice there. The fact that no social services, everything I endured and watched other people endure,
Yeah,
there's no amount of money to be honest that can compensate that. And all the years of anxiety and my reintegration back into society, I really struggled. Like I experienced, like, I was scared to leave the house. um I would get sick. I would have an upset tummy before leaving. I was scared, terrified of the world because of what I saw. I wake up with nightmares, screaming in my sleep. When I came back to England, and like I was what just remember just looking at the world around me, like being back in society was just really difficult, and that went on for a few years. Um, there was just a complete lack of connect with other people. It was really hard.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah, and like different countries, like no one really understands in England, which made it even harder. Um, so I'm
it's a
lucky.
huge it's a huge culture shock too. You know, like you said, you
Yeah,
got two cultures.
yeah,
You go from one to another. You've never been to the other culture, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So this
yeah.
is
It
what
is a
these
massive.
crazy Americans are doing. You know,
Yeah,
so
Americans do have a bit of a reputation for being crazy.
yeah, Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
But Stephanie, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
you
No,
got.
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. If you have anything else you want to talk about, just let me know. We can do this again. But
Yeah,
this seems to,
sure.
and this podcast does seem to be pretty therapeutic to a lot of people as well that have been through,
It massively.
yes,
Yeah,
these programs. It's like, okay, I'm not alone. There's other people,
yeah.
that are coming out.
Just to get it out there is just yeah, it's really yeah, because it does make you feel alone, trauma. It really
Yeah.
does. So it's yeah, great. Thank you so
All right,
much.
I'm gonna close the program, but stay on the line, okay? I want to talk to you for a
Okay,
couple of seconds. All right. I want to thank
sure.
everybody for watching. I want to thank Stephanie once again for coming on and telling her story. Like I said, if you've been to any of these places, the Family Foundation or Second Nature or even Island View, and you want to come on the podcast, the number to text me at is at the top of the channel page. Give me a text. We'll set a date. All right. So for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. You take care of each other, and we'll see you in the next podcast.